Hello, Bob. I see you.
I could see you now.
I can see you and I can hear you.
All right.
Yeah, it's those years of PS 99 education that enabled us,
Yeah.
given us this technical ability.
Yeah. 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 I,
Anyway,
I found some interesting things that I'm going to show you.
go ahead.
Um, from
Let me,
PS from,
go
from
ahead.
PS from PS 99.
Go ahead. I'm ready.
Um, First, can you can you take a look at this? This you really can't see what it is. It's all this is from like 1941 or 42, and this was a thing that you wore around your neck with your name printed on. You had to print your name on it and your home address. So if there was an air raid or something, you could hide under
Was
your
it
desk.
was it a dog tag?
Yeah, but it was a paper thing, sort of a cardboard thing.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, and you had to wear that. And then another thing.
It's amazing that you've held on to these things, right?
Yeah, I have a cigar box full of old crap. This is like a junior
Civil
air
de-
raid warden.
civil
Junior air
defense.
raid warden. This is for picking up salvage and also being a junior air raid warden. 1941, 42, 43. You wore this around
I
your
have
arm.
I have my father's helmet. He was a civil
Uh-huh.
defense warden. What else he
And,
got?
and here is a picture that I drew of one of my teachers at PS 99.
Which teacher was it?
Probably a Miss Fleischer.
Miss Fleischer.
I didn't like her.
I could never tell. Hey, that's suitable for framing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
I'll let my grandchildren do that. And then I found a whole like this, I found a bunch of report cards
Uh-huh.
from to authenticate me.
So read from one of them. Read read what grade? First grade, second grade? What do you got?
Well, this is from the fourth grade, second semester,
Who was your teacher?
with the teacher Helen Toll.
Uh-huh.
There were two sisters, Helen Toll and Mary Toll, and they were both very nice, very sweet young women.
And did you
And
get good marks, Robert?
let me see. Let me see what she gave me. Let me let's look at that.
And
Look
they should
inside.
have, and as I recall, I have them too. You had to get your parents' signature to prove that they read it.
Oh yeah. Here's the signature page.
Yeah. Was it your mother or your father? Or both?
Well, this one was my mother.
Okay.
It says inside. I don't. It says works in place well with others. Sat S completes work. U unsatisfactory. I don't know why I got that. I don't remember ever doing that. And the second part of the marking period, I got an I, and then a satisfactory for the last one. Generally careful, S's, respects the rights of others, S's, practices good health habits, S's, speaks clearly, first marking period, U, second marking period, I, third I, obedience to school regulations, B plus first, A second, B plus third, and then a bunch of grades, mostly A's, A's, B pluses,
Good.
so forth. And basically, it got as I went on. As I went on, it got a little bit better. But I stayed there from September, the beginning of the September term in 1939. That's when I met my oldest friend Jerry, who's been my best friend for 81 years now.
Yeah.
And
Is he the same age as you?
yeah, he's about 3 weeks older than me.
Okay. So did you start in kindergarten in September of 39?
No, he started in kindergarten in 1937.
Okay.
and I started in 1939 in the second grade.
Where
And
had you been? Where had you been in kindergarten and first grade? In another neighborhood?
It was not far away. It was PS 199, and it was the school was at that time I was living on East 12th Street between L and M at 1235 East 12th Street. I remember the address.
I remember playing in the softball league, and we would play PS 199. It was so close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I started the second grade with my friend Jerry. My mother, I went outside with my mother, and she saw Jerry walking. He was living next door to me. I never knew him. And she says, walk to school with this little boy. He'll show you where to go. And the school was on my block. As you know, on that block in East 10th was the school. And, we weren't such good friends at first because, let's see, when I was about 9, 10, 11, my mother used to feed me chocolate milk, and she stuck an egg in the glass and then a big hunk of chocolate on the bottom. So I should drink the whole thing because I didn't really like it to get the chocolate. But she made me sort of a husky kid. Like I wouldn't say I was morbidly obese. I wasn't. But she used to send me for my clothes or take me there at the Husky store.
Uh-huh.
And not only that, in those years, I was a horrible athlete. I just was not coordinated. And as I think I posted that the good kids used to play punch ball, and
Yeah.
the good players, including my friend Jerry, he was a very good athlete from the very beginning. He used to punch 2 sewers. I would barely get to 1 sewer. That's how we measure our greatness.
How does Jerry pronounce his last name? Seif?
Seif, yeah.
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 Where does Jerry live now?
He lives in South Carolina. He had a very storied. He lives in a small town in South Carolina on a lake, and he has a pontoon boat and goes fishing.
Wow.
He has a really good life there. When we were growing up, he was like, at one point he was like my arch enemy because he used to bully me because I was a fat kid and I didn't play ball very well. Fat kids used to choose up sides not to have me. The loser got me. And those days lost scars, mental scars on me. But in one way, it was good because as I started to develop and get older and get thinner and stronger, I became quite athletic, and I got to be better than all of them. Except for my friend Jerry, had a very good throwing arm and loved baseball. He played shortstop and second base. I used to play right field and prayed no balls came to me. But there was one time, I think I was about either 9 or 10. We used to get dressed up on Sunday because either relatives would come visit or we would go visit relatives. And we had what we call our Sunday suits. So I come down, it was after a big rain, and I came down wearing a nice Sunday suit, and he came out wearing his nice Sunday suit, and he starts bullying me around. Well, I got so disgusted with him, I wound up and gave him I think it was a right hook, and he fell to the ground into a puddle of water and went crying home. And since that time, he never bullied me again, and we became really good friends.
And you became lifelong friends. Hey,
yeah,
sometimes it takes a punch.
Yeah, the best,
even with somebody you love, you know.
Yeah, we did everything together. Not only we were good friends living on East 10th Street. After the 6th grade, we both moved away to different neighborhoods. I moved to Bedford Avenue, second house from the corner on Avenue I, about a block away from Brooklyn College, and across the street was Midwood High School, about a block and a half away. And he moved away to Quentin Road in East 5th Street, and that was, and he went to public school 238 to finish up 7th and 8th grades, and I went to 152, which I truly hated, but I liked Midwood. I loved Midwood.
Good.
Midwood was great. And
what was your graduating class from Midwood? What year?
It was 1950.
Okay.
And Jerry and I,
And if you had stayed at PS 99, you would have graduated in 46?
I would have graduated in 46, yes.
And did Jerry graduate in 46 from 99?
Yes, he graduated from 238, and then he went to Abraham Lincoln High School.
Okay.
And then we used to go to summer camp together. We were always bunkmates in summer camp.
Where'd you
And
go
we
to
used
summer camp?
It was called Camp Giwana. There's GE with a dash, WAH with a dash, and
Was it in the Catskills?
yeah, it was in on Silver Lake, which was near White Lake. We used to hike. We used to hike to White Lake on Saturdays. So we had.
Who was the principal when you were at PS 99?
Oh, that was, I think her name was Miss or Mrs. Fletcher.
Oh yeah, same as me.
Yeah, and the assistant principal was a sort of a hefty woman named Miss Reed, and she and I had a lot of words.
And do you have any memories of her name was Eudora Fletcher.
Yes, Eudora Fletcher.
Do you have any memories of what she was like?
I never really dealt with her that much because I used to deal with Miss Reed. I think my crimes never raised to the level where I had to see the principal. It was the assistant principal.
I mean, in comparison, was Jerry a good boy compared to you?
Jerry was sort of more of a wild seed. He did the sort of crazy things. My mother said, "Don't follow what he does. He's not a good influence on you." But he sort of mellowed out as he got older. I mean, he had an interesting life. We both went to Lehigh together. We were roommates, and then we joined different fraternities. But he left after 2 years and went to the University of Miami, and I went there to be a chemical engineer. And he went there to be a pre-med, and somehow our switches crossed, and he became an industrial engineer, and I became an orthopedic surgeon. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But we both got married in the summer after our junior year of college.
Wow.
I married my childhood sweetheart from around the corner on East 26th Street, near between Avenue I and the Long Island Railroad cut.
Oh yeah, I remember the cut.
Yeah, so she lived on that street, and I lived around the corner on Bedford Avenue. I met her at a party when I first moved. I think I was around when I first started high school. No, I think I was a sophomore, and she was a freshman.
What's her name?
No, her name was Audrey. Let's see. Yeah, I met her when I was about 15, and she was 16, just about going on 16, and she was 14. And she was a very pretty, nice girl. But I took her out a couple of times, and then we stopped. I had a lot of different girlfriends.
She went to Midwood also?
Yeah, she went to Midwood also.
And what's her last name?
Her last name was Eichner.
Okay.
Eichner.
Nice.
Yeah, so we got married after the summer of my junior year. After I finished the junior year, so I went back to Lehigh as a senior. I was already married, and it's a good thing I was married because that really toned me down. I was busy with a lot of sports and did a lot of stuff. As I said, I became a pretty decent athlete. I played basketball. I loved basketball. I was a decent tennis player, and I was always a pretty good table tennis player. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. When one year I didn't go to camp, it was 1947, and my father took a month off, and we went to this place in the Catskills called the President Hotel, and we got there on a Saturday morning. We were staying there for a month. That's why I didn't go to camp. I rather went to the hotel with them. And we got there on a rainy Saturday, and they had a ping pong tournament, and a lot of guests, were there, and men and so forth. And I beat everybody. So, so the athletic director comes over to my father and says, this kid looks like he has some talent. Would you mind if I gave him some tutelage, gave him some lessons every
Yeah.
day as long as he's here? Well, this guy happened to be the name of Sal Schiff. If you want an interesting guy, Google him. Schiff.
Uh-huh.
His first name is Sol, S-O-L. Now, Sal Schiff, and this was in 1947. In 1937 and 1938, he was the world's doubles champion. I mean, not just United States, world. He was the world's doubles champion. He was multiple times U.S. champion.
In table
So
tennis?
in table tennis. So he taught me. Basically, I wasn't even holding the racket right, and he took me into being sort of a pusher retriever. He made me hold the racket the correct way. He gave me a book that he wrote, gave me a brand new racket, and played with me 3 to 4 hours a day. And when I finished with him in a month, I was like a mini professional, where I would get back.
Wow.
He would drive balls to me like you see on TV, and I would get back 15, 20 feet behind the table and return the balls. And it was just amazing. And it served me very well.
Yeah.
I always enjoyed the game. And in fact, when I was a resident at Mount Sinai, I used to play at the New York Table Tennis Club, which was owned by a fellow named Bobby Guzikov, who was a national champion on several times. And I used to go there at 10, 11 o'clock at night when things quieted down when I was on call at the hospital, usually 3 times a week and every second weekend. And I would go play there. They had the best players on the East Coast. The best players in the country were there at the time. I used to play with them. And in 1962, I played in the U.S. National Championships, and I went 3 rounds. So that was pretty good. I lost to the #1 player in Canada, and it was a very close match.
Good for you. Wow.
Yeah, and even in medical school, I played basketball on Saturday mornings at University of Illinois, and on Sunday afternoons, I played in the Net and Paddle Club in Chicago. And a very funny incident, at the Net and Paddle Club in Chicago, they have a big trophy rack with glass-covered rack, and all these trophies are in there. And there's one guy, Bernard Bukiet, Bukiet. He was national champion, national champion, double, singles, a whole row of trophies. So after I finished medical school, I got to intern at Mount Sinai in New York. That's where I did my orthopedic training too, and practiced there. He came to the emergency room. I didn't know his name. It just didn't ring true to me. But he came in with a backache. I stripped him down to his waist, and I'm looking at the guy, and his right side of his whole back and shoulders and arm looked like they were like very well muscled, and his left side was very, very thin. So I asked him, "Did you ever have polio in your life? I mean, you're so developed on your right side." He says, "Oh, I'm a table tennis player." I'm thinking, Bernie Bukiet, I think I saw all your trophies in Chicago. He says, "Oh," with this Polish accent, "You know me. You know me."
That's a great story.
Yeah, well, he became my patient. Dick Miles, who was multiple U.S. champion, was my patient. Leah Newberger, the best woman in the country, was my patient. And Lona Flam was was a national champion once I operated on her son. So I had a very good entourage of world
You were
class
doing
table.
sports orthopedic medicine. Yeah.
Yeah. I specialized in sports medicine because I played so many sports. I loved sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Did you say you had an older brother?
I did. Yes. Yeah. I had an older brother. He was 9 years older than me, and he was a veteran of World War II with 5 major battle stars. After they almost blew his brains out in Europe, they sent him over to the Okinawa. So when the war was over, he came home from Okinawa.
What was his name?
His name was Lionel.
And didn't you say he was a roller skating champ and went with
Yes.
went with a girl across the street?
Yeah, Roma Marx. Roma they were a very devout Roman Catholic family. but they used to invite us over for Christmas Eve all the time. And she was she was like an opera singer, the girl. She had a beautiful voice. And she played the guitar. She was really good. So, and she used to sing and did all the Christmas carols and the whatnot. So we became pretty friendly with the Marxes, and he was an inventor, and the wife was nice. In fact, they were hunters, and he gave me my first rifle, which was a 22. And I thought that was really, really nice of him. I
And
was
her
very
name
proud.
was Roma, like the
The
capital of
girl's name was,
Italy.
yeah, that was her name, the girl's name.
And they
And
used to, and Lionel and Roma would compete at
yeah,
the,
and
I remember the Park Circle,
roller skating, yeah.
your Ocean Parkway ends in Park Circle.
Yeah, yes. Um, yeah, that had a big roller rink over there. Then it became a funeral home, I think.
I was going to say, yeah.
Years later.
Well, I looked up, I had trouble finding the family, but didn't it turn out they lived at, was it 1183?
Yes, they lived across the street, 1183.
So I know 1183 well because I lived at 1181 next door.
Yes, you live. So you live.
But I
You
but
live.
I arrived in 1948, and by then the next door neighbor was the Lieberman family, who had lived
And,
in the corner. He was a butcher or in the meat business.
uh,
So I remember that house well, right next door
yeah,
to me.
we left. We left in June of 1944. My family moved to Bedford Avenue, maybe in July. I think because I was in camp then, so they must have moved in July, and I came back to the new house on Bedford Avenue, which was really nice. They made me a workshop in the basement.
It was
We finished.
it was a bigger house.
It was a one-family house. As you recall, the houses across the street, there were two-family houses, a lot of them. And I lived upstairs. Jerry lived downstairs. And I don't know whether I mentioned to you or not, but we had a way of communicating with each other where we set up with a dry cell battery, a buzzer in each
Oh yeah.
house with a button. So then once you got the buzz, you'd come to the bedroom window, and we had tin cans, and we had string attached to each to the tin cans, and we had punched a hole in the can, and we used to talk into the can, and you can hear it in your ear, the voice very well. The sound would go through the string, and if it was held taut, and you could hear. So we used to talk to each other into all hours of the night.
So what would you say, reflecting on that time, your friendship with Jerry, your brother's connection with with Roma, your reference you had made before to the gang you had of friends?
Yeah.
What was in the DNA? Was there something in the DNA of the block? I mean, I certainly felt it. My sister felt it. I'll tell you one story. My sister, who's 4 years younger than I am, she just turned 75, and I'm going to be 80 in June. So there was a time when my father, who was in the pharmaceutical business, he worked for a company that made tablets and heart capsules, was applying for a job in New Jersey. And my sister knew about it. She's like 7. And the notion of leaving East 10th Street was so unfathomable, so distasteful. It was like, we can't live here. This is our life. All my friends are here. And she was grateful when my father didn't get the job, and we stayed on East 10th Street. So there was something. Maybe it was the time. Maybe it was the relationship. Maybe it was the people. That was. Look at you and Jerry. 81 years later, still connected. There was some kind of bonding that
Yeah,
happened.
exactly. The kids were very close. We used to play every single day. Uh, uh, on the Saturdays, we go to the movies. Remember the Midwood?
Oh yeah.
well,
And the Vogue,
the
yeah,
Vogue, right? And the Elm,
the Elm,
right? And if you really wanted to splurge, you went to the Low East Kings and Kings Highway.
yeah. Well, I had I grew up in an apartment house. In the first years, I went to PS 217. I lived in an apartment house at Foster and Argyle, and PS 217 was on Newkirk and Coney Island Avenue over there. And so as a
Yeah,
kid, we went to the Leader, saw double features, and the Kent,
right.
both
The
of them.
Kent too. Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
And also there was the Marine on Flatbush Avenue.
Uh-huh.
On the way to Kings Highway was the Marine.
Yeah.
So I used to go to the Marine too. And the Elm, used to walk to the Elm. And I remember the days. I must have been in maybe. Well, we didn't have too much money when I was growing up, for a while, and my friend Jerry and I we worked. We worked since we were 8 years old. We worked for a grocer. His name was Mr. Kiddewa, who had a grocery shop on Avenue K, I think, between Coney Island Avenue and East 10th Street. It could have been Avenue L or K. I don't remember which one it was, but we had a push cart, and they used to give us orders, and he would take them. If you had to walk upstairs with the bags to deliver, you got 2 cents. If you didn't have to walk upstairs, you got 1 cent. And he
As
give
I,
you a
as
kind
I recall, since it was as very young kids, as young as 5, when we were not considered old enough to cross the street, we were lucky being on the odd side of East 10th Street and being able to walk around the corner to Avenue L. I'm guessing where there was a produce market. It was called Sid's. There was a grocery store where Morris had a barrel of pickles. And then
of.
there was a Italian barber shop. I'd get haircuts. It was Dan Machina. And then on the corner was a candy store, which was first Phil and Jack's and later was Willie's. So I'm guessing maybe you worked, I don't recall any, I don't think there were any shops on K, but there were definitely on
Yeah,
Avenue L between Coney Island Avenue and East 10th Street. I'm
yeah,
guessing
then that's where
that's
it
where
was.
you worked.
Then
Yeah.
that's where it was on Avenue L. And the guy's name was Kiddewa. I guess he must have sold the business before you got there. But Jerry, I tell you, he was a sort of a wild kid. So he used to steal a Pepsi, and he would drink the Pepsi, and then he'd bring the bottle back for 2 cent deposit.
That's
Um,
great. So what did
yeah,
both your parents were from Eastern Europe?
yeah, my mother was from Warsaw. My father was from a suburb in Minsk.
Okay.
and he was a military guy, rather strict, and I always had a little bit of fear of him because he was such a, military type of guy. And I remember once when I went to PS 152, I was talking to this girl. Her name was Pat Keogh, nice Irish girl, and I was trying to get a relationship with her. And I kept getting called to the principal there. I went to the principal, this guy, Mr. Bisham, who was like a clone of Richard III in Old England, and he had a club foot and sort of a hunchback. And
Yeah.
he wrote a letter to my father that I was a juvenile delinquent, and that's all my father had to read. He calls me in, pulls up the letter, and gave me a backhand to my face. I'll never forget it. He says, "If I ever get one more letter from this principal, you're dead meat," something like that. Well, I stopped talking to the girl.
Well, why were the two connected? Why was talking? Why did the principal? Why was he upset that you were talking to this girl?
Because it would upset the class. I was talking to her during the teacher was trying to teach,
Oh,
and
I see. Oh,
so
no wonder you didn't. No wonder you didn't like that school. Yeah.
no, I hated 152. I couldn't wait to get out of there. Not only that, I had to learn how to all their stuff, all their writing on the board was print. It was not printing. It was cursive. And I
Yeah.
didn't know how to read cursive,
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
so
that's
it took me a while. And that's why I had this terrible handwriting. To this day, it's not very good, and it's perfect for a doctor.
yeah, right. So what year were you born? 19.
1932.
All right. I think I have a friend who was born in 1933. He could have been in the school at the same time you are. He lives out here in San Francisco now. He lived on Ocean Parkway. His name was Ron Davis. I don't know that you bring. And then he went to Midwood High School. Maybe he's a
Yeah.
year behind you. Um, so
Yeah, we used to.
what did your father do for a living?
Oh, he was a manufacturer of women's dresses, and he one of his customers was Rosalie Dress Shop on Avenue J.
Uh-huh.
And I remember when I was when I was on East 10th Street, you can go to the movies. No one had air conditioning in those days, and some of the sweltering summers, you could go for 25 cents. You go to the Yessen's Delicatessen, which was on Avenue J, right near the BMT,
Yeah.
right near the train. Yeah, you get 2 hot dogs and a soda, and it costs 15 cents. And then you went across the street and walked a couple of blocks to the Midwood Theater, where we saw a double feature, a couple of serials, cartoons, movie tone news, and previews. And we'd go in there at noontime and get out around 6 o'clock. And I
And it
still
was
have the memories.
air
All
conditioned, right?
Oh yeah, I'll never forget that feeling when you left the theater and walked out to that humid heat. How it
Yeah.
hit you like a ton of bricks.
You could faint.
Yeah, yeah. So and that was for 25 cents.
Yeah.
All day entertainment.
I remember when suddenly in the movies they only presented one movie. I felt cheated because we grew up
Yeah,
where, for me, it was either 25 cents or 35 cents going to the leader and seeing 2 movies with cartoons, with a newsreel,
sure,
whatever.
sure. Yeah, then they changed everything. And also you got giveaways, you got presents, you got little toys on the matinees, and then so certain I think on Wednesdays at the Vogue they gave out dishes. You can
I
My
remember
parents would
dishes at the leader.
dishes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Was and our graduation in 1955 was at the Vogue Theater.
uh, yeah. My graduation at PS 152. Trying to think. I think that was may have been at Brooklyn College because it was right across the street,
Right.
basically.
A place we called Midwood High School Extension, since so
Yeah.
many kids just would go there.
Yeah, I applied there when as I said, I wanted to be an engineer, so I applied. One of the things I loved airplanes. I build radio control airplanes now, but I started building when I was around 5 years old. I built all the warplanes during the war with
Yeah.
tissue paper and sticks and whatnot. Um, so one of my interests was to be maybe an aeronautical engineer. In fact, when I applied to colleges, I applied to Georgia Tech, I applied to NYU Engineering, I applied to, I think it was Glendale School of Aviation in California, and Lehigh. And I had a neighbor who was like diagonally across the street from me on Avenue I, between Bedford Avenue and East 26th. And in camp one year, I think I was a waiter, and he was a junior counselor at the time. This was, I think, in 1949. Yeah. He talked to me about Lehigh. He was a couple of years older than me. He said it's a wonderful school. It's a wonderful, integrated engineering school. Blah blah blah. So I decided that I'd go to Lehigh because it had such a good reputation and it wasn't so far away. So I did. I wanted to get away. I was accepted to Brooklyn College too. I could have walked to school every day, but I just didn't want to have that kind of a life. I wanted to get away.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I understand that. And what town is Lehigh in?
That's in Bethlehem.
Bethlehem. Okay. So it wasn't
Yeah.
that far, but
No, it's about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hour ride from Brooklyn.
what was
And
I know generally what the ethnic makeup was on our block of East 10th Street in late 40s, early 50s. Probably wasn't that different. What's your recollection of, obviously you and Jerry were Jewish, but what other nationalities were on the block?
well, the Carmine Cardo was Italian, of course.
Hmm.
And I remember his grandfather. We used to call him Nonu, which is Italian for grandpa.
Nice.
Nonu and Nona. Nona was the grandma. So we used to kid around with Nonu all the time. I remember he had like a very yellowish mustache.
Yeah.
And Carmine was a nice kid. He was a good kid. And we had Neil Loeb, who was a Jewish kid across the street also, but down the block a bit towards the school. And there's a couple of other kids that I don't really remember them that much. But the main group was myself, Jerry, and Carmine, and Neil. And Neil was like a year younger than us. So it was the four of us were the stalwarts, so to speak, of the block.
And when you were younger, you would play in the schoolyard at PS 99?
Yeah, we play in the schoolyards, and sometimes during the summer they had like community activities where kids would come. They'd build things, like make little cars out of cheese boxes. The wooden cheese boxes, put wheels on them and
Well,
handles.
I remember also during summers there, the was it the PSAL, Public School Athletic League, would have activity. I just remember we would play knock hockey. We'd
Yeah,
have
yeah,
games, and they'd have like a young guy who was the camp director, and maybe he'd lead us in different games.
yeah. We did that, and they also had the Police Athletic League, the PAL,
Right, right. That's it. Yeah.
and the PAL sponsored baseball and basketball.
Right.
Yeah, there was a park called Kelly Park, which was somewhere around Avenue R, Avenue S, and they had a terrific basketball team that some of the best high school players were playing on that team. I was lucky to play with those guys, and I used to play with them and go to Manhattan Beach and play, and they had some really good players there. Interestingly enough, do you remember the City Hall scandals? I mean, not City Hall, City College basketball scandals for shaving points?
Yeah. Right.
Well, one of the real conspirators there was a guy named Al Roth. His name was Fats Roth. He wasn't fat, but he was very wide. So they call him Fats Roth. Well, he became my tennis partner when I moved to Woodcliff Lake. I must have been in my early 30s then. And we played tennis in Frank Brennan's tennis center at night. And he was my doubles partner. So we talked about a lot of stuff. I used to play with those guys in Marine Park. A lot of the college, not Marine Park, Manhattan Beach. A lot of the college guys would come down there and play. So it was a lot of fun playing with those guys.
I played in Marine Park in the
Yeah.
it was called the Parade Ground League, but the parade ground over on Caton Avenue was so filled up we played there. And I actually played in the same league and I remember him, with Joe Torre,
Hmm.
whose older brother Frank was already in the majors playing for the
Yeah.
Boston Braves. And nice guy. He played for a team called the Cadets. They were always in first place, and I played center field for a team called the Avenue J Spartans. And we were usually almost in the basement. I have a classmate who I'm still in touch with, who lived on East 12th Street between J and K, where perhaps even in your day, the first branch public library was before they built one. There was a little small one just down from Avenue J. And Harold Jacobs said that his father, Alexander, speaking of your father's profession, had a shop which later became Stern's Bakery on the corner of East 12th and Avenue J. And Alexander's, his father's business, sold children's clothes and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I remember Stearns and Ebinger's.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story about Ebinger. When I moved to Bedford Avenue, um, my friend Jerry and I, we would get together on Halloween. Sometimes I go to his house, he'd come to me. Well, I devised an interesting thing to torture people.
What'd you
It
do?
was if you take a nut, like a metal, like a nut from a bolt,
Yeah.
like a not a small nut, but a nut that had some little weight to it, and you tie a piece of thread to it, um, and you put the thread on the nut, and you take a thumbtack and have another piece, and you tack it on just above where the window glass is, and
Yeah.
you go across the street, hide behind a bush with this black thread, and you keep rapping on the window, and they come and look. They put on the lights. They look outside. They go back in. They rap again.
It drove me crazy.
And the people that owned Ebinger's Bake Shop lived diagonally across the street from me on Bedford Avenue. We used to do it to them. Yeah, we were little devils.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
we, we used to go to New York. We used to ride the subway to New York for a nickel and go to 42nd Street and go to the penny arcades and all that. It was such, and go to Coney Island and go on all the rides. It was such an interesting and nice childhood. You
Oh,
didn't
I
have to worry.
agree. I love
You didn't have to worry
I
about.
love steeplechase. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And in those times, you didn't have to worry. There weren't gangs around or thugs like rob you in Central Park. That life was different, so much different then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess our parents felt comfortable enough to give us, they worried about it, they were concerned, but we were free to explore and we sort of developed our own, like you did, our own kid culture, our own gangs and friendships. I still remember my mother, when I was 8 years old, saying goodbye to me as I went to visit my father at work at the American Pharmaceutical Company, which was on West 43rd Street, I think near 9th Avenue, past where the New York Times used to be. And that was a big trip to get all by myself. I walked to the station, got on there, uh, got off of 42nd Street and walked down 43rd, and there was my father waiting for me. And it was a very important accomplishment, part of my building of my own self-confidence and what I was
Hmm.
capable of doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. The things are well today. The kids today are totally different from how we grew up. They have to be structured. They have to have their play dates and blah blah blah.
Well, the
And
whole
we got
notion of a play date, imagine your parents picking out who you would be your friends with, like telling you, oh, I don't like that Jerry, I don't like that Seif boy. I don't want you hanging. I've arranged this play date with a nice boy down the block. And maybe you don't like him. And maybe, it's just, yeah, it's an unfortunate phenomenon. I mean, even on my own block here in San Francisco, there are a lot of kids, they're never on the street. I feel like saying, come out and play. Let's do it.
and the kids that they don't have that. They don't have that. They don't have that social. Einstein made a very interesting prediction during his lifetime, the latter part of his lifetime, and he said the world of technology is going to breed a generation of idiots.
Who said that?
Albert Einstein,
Oh, yeah.
and he was right. He was right. because these kids today, all they want to do is play their video games, and you go to you even see a bunch of them go eat out. They don't even talk to each other. They're looking at their phones. And there's no social interaction.
So they don't have the skills of conversation or
No, no,
explaining things or speaking or no,
no,
or
no.
even or figuring out problems.
Right.
No, it's sad in a way, and they're very dependent on their parents,
Yeah,
which means that their parents have an extra burden. Their parents are
that's
working,
right.
trying to make a living, and now with homeschooling during the pandemic, oh my God, it's too much. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm glad the vaccines are coming around because I've been going nuts here. We're cooped up. My wife is very paranoid about this, and the biggest part of my day is when I go out to a store and do some shopping. She won't even go to the supermarket. I like to go. I'd like to go. I mean, it's the excitement of the week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what county is Ramsey in?
Ramsey's in Bergen County, northern Bergen County. I'm about 25 minutes from the George Washington Bridge. I'm off Route 17.
Are you near
Um,
Teaneck, Maplewood?
no, I'm well past that north.
Near Fort Lee, Paramus?
No, no, no. I'm closer to Paramus. I'm north of that.
Okay.
If you go up Route 17, you ever go up to the Catskills years ago when
Oh,
you
of
were growing up?
course. Yeah,
Okay, you remember the Swiss Chalet?
I think so. Where was that?
Yeah, it was on Route 17. It was like the halfway mark, so to speak, if you're coming from Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah. We used to
It,
stay up at a farm which was on the road between Jeffersonville and Calhoun Center. I guess not far from Liberty.
yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, where the Swiss Chalet now it's now a very large Lexus dealer. And to get to my development where I live in these townhouses, that's where you turn up. So that's about where I am, up Route 17. I'm very close to the New York state line.
Oh, I see. Got it.
And yeah, we have just under 3,000 square feet. We have 3 finished levels. It's nice. It's distinctive looking. It's a nice community, and it's going to be 14 years. That this coming September will be 14 years that we're here.
And you have a
And
daughter and you have grandchildren? What do you got?
yeah, I have 2 sons, but they're both orthopedic surgeons, and I have my daughter who's married to a plastic surgeon. And my one of my sons has a daughter who's a pediatrician.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. And where did they
So
practice? In New York?
um, I have, yeah, one of my sons is in New York. The other one is in New Jersey. At one time, they were both with me. We had a big office on 93rd Street and Lexington Avenue. It had about 3,500 square feet, including
Wow.
physical therapy and x-rays. It was it was a very big office. I had a big practice. I had an international practice. People used to come from Europe to see me. So it was an interesting time in my life. But I retired when I was just about 3 days short of my 79th birthday. And the only reason why I retired was I couldn't stand the politics and the paperwork and the crap that you had to jump through hoops to get authorizations all of a sudden to prescribe medicines, to get MRIs or CAT scans. And it was horrible, horrible. In fact, the last thing that before I retired, I remember this is I said, hell, I don't have to do this anymore. I had, I told you I was an athlete. I did a lot of things. I had a lot of athletes in my practice. Um, I also ran the New York Marathon 4 times. So
Wow.
I was into everything. And I saw a girl who was training for the marathon. She was a 24, 25-year-old girl, came in with pain in her hip. And I got her history of how she's run, how she trains. I said to myself, I'm certain that she has a stress fracture involving the neck of her femur, up the upper thigh bone, near where the socket is. So I took an X-ray because I knew that they want me to take an X-ray, and I wanted to just take an X-ray as a baseline. So the X-ray showed nothing, but that's nothing. You can be fooled by a negative-looking X-ray with an early stress fracture. So I call up for authorization to do an MRI because that'll show the fracture. And I get on the phone, and they say, well, did you do physical therapy for this patient? I says, no, it's not indicated. If it's a fracture, it can make it come apart. Did you give her anti-inflammatories? No, I just saw her. That's not indicated either. I need an MRI. I'm sorry, you have to give her medication. You have to go physical therapy before I can do that. Did you have a supervisor? Yes. Give me the supervisor. So, the supervisor, the same spiel.
Is this somebody at Mount Sinai who's doing it?
No. I'm calling an insurance company.
Oh, I see. Oh,
It may have been Aetna or some other company, big company. They have these people that screen these things that you had to get certified before you can order them. It used to be you wanted something, you would give a prescription, you send it to a specialist, you get it done. Not anymore. So finally, I got the same written spiel that they read from a card. Step 1, step 2, step 3. You have to go through all these hoops before they grant the authorization. Finally, I said, do you have a doctor I could speak to? So he says, yes. Can I speak to the doctor, please? He puts on this doctor. He says, hello, I'm Dr. So-and-so. I'm a pediatrician. He says, I said, hello, I'm Dr. Zaretsky. I'm an orthopedic surgeon from Mount Sinai Hospital. And I have a patient. I wasn't practicing full-time at Sinai. That was my main hospital affiliation. I had my private office. So I said, I'm a professor of orthopedics at the Mount Sinai School of Medicine. And I strongly suspect that I have a young female runner who has a stress fracture of her femur. And in order for me to ascertain that, I need an MRI. If I don't have that, then it's likely that within 3 weeks, this fracture can fall apart. And then she'll need surgery. He said, okay, here's your authorization number. I got it right away from him because he was a reasonable guy. I made my case, and he said, and he understood. But these other people, these stupid clerks, you couldn't deal with it. I said, the hell with this. I'm not doing this. And also, if you want, I wanted to order Celebrex, which is a good medicine, a good anti-inflammatory. I wanted Celebrex. Oh, did you give her Advil? Did you give her Mobit? Did you screw this? I said, when it came with this fracture, I said, I'm done. I don't need this. I can afford to retire. That's what I'm going to do. I got a million things that I do other than practice medicine, and I'm going to be very happy when I retire. And that's what I did. I retired.
by the way, guess what I did on October 13th?
What?
I got my left hip replaced, and I'm very grateful.
Well, that's great. I'm glad it worked out for you.
Thank you, and thank your profession. It was a smart thing to do, and the recovery has been, it was anterior, and the recovery, they sent me home the same day, and the recovery has been very rapid. So,
Well, when we first started doing them, we were like the pioneers doing that in the late 1960s. They used to do it through a posterior or posterolateral incision, and then you had to stay in the hospital 21 days, and you had to have an abduction pillow in between your legs to keep your legs spread apart so that the prosthesis could stay firmly in place. The head would not subluxate or dislocate out of the socket. So it changed dramatically. It really changed dramatically. The sports medicine aspect, everything changed. One of the pioneers in arthroscopic surgery too, and developed various techniques and so forth. And that's what I would do. I would get a lot of redos. People used to send them to me to redo them because they were too difficult or this or that. It was a steep learning curve. I remember the first one I did. I was taking out a torn knee cartilage in 15 minutes, and I did a plastic surgical incision that was about maybe an inch long. And some of them were doing it with 6-inch incisions. And I was doing it through an inch with the plastic surgery closure on the side of the knee and using a special instrument to get the meniscus out. So then the arthroscopy came around. First it was just diagnostic, just they had no instruments to cut with. Put the scope in, look around, and you had like a bird's eye view. And then they developed a few tools you can use. And then they've developed what was called an articulating arm that had a bunch of prisms in it. And then one of your residents would hold this thing that was around 18 inches, 2 feet long, and he'd look in his eye. So he'd take a breath, the slightest little movement with that long lever arm, and you're looking at a thing would take you off your field of vision. It was horrendous. So finally they developed the cameras. The first camera was the size of a tennis ball can. Then it evolved down to the size of a golf ball. And it was just terrific. I love doing arthroscopic surgery. It's like a video game. And I had the ability to think in 3D. So looking at a flat screen, but I saw everything in 3D.
Wow.
So it was a lot of fun doing arthroscopic surgery. But when I did my first one, I tried to take out my first meniscus. It took me over 2 hours. So I went and I said to Audrey, "This is ridiculous. It's never going to fly. I'm not doing this anymore. Just, no, what are you talking about? Just keep with it. It'll get better." So I listened to her. Luckily, I
Good.
did.
Thank you. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, she saw to it that I studied. She made me. We lived in a one-room, in a rooming house at Lehigh. We lived in a rooming house in one room, and I used to study on an ironing board, and I didn't even have a desk. My kids that never believed me, but it's true. I studied on an ironing board, and she would live in. We had the TV in the corner, and she would get earphones for the TV so I wouldn't have to hear it. And even in medical school, she put the earphones in the TV, and so I shouldn't hear it. And I wasn't allowed to leave my desk. At the time, we had a desk when I was in medical school, living in Chicago. She made me stay there till 9 o'clock at night. I couldn't leave my room till 9 o'clock at night.
Good
It
for
paid
her.
off. Yeah, it paid off.
A good woman. That's
A
nice.
good woman. You're right. She was a good woman. I'm talking to you from my lower level, and I'm sitting in a very comfortable couch that has a recliner type of couch with
Oh,
legs
yeah.
that come.
Where you
I
can
don't
put
have.
where you can put your legs up?
Yeah, I don't have my legs up though, but I'm going to turn the camera around. I'm going to show you. During the winter I store some of my airplanes down
Oh, I want to
here.
see them. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to turn the camera around. I'll show you the 3 of them that are in here.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, this is a modern version of the Piper Cub. As you can see, the cowl is off of it because I'm not finished tuning the engine yet. Once I tune the engine, I'm going to put the cowl in there. And inside, can you see the pilot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you
Yeah.
fly these remote control?
Can you see his hands and everything?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
carved all those.
Oh, wow.
I made the pilot from a bust. Actually, you're my Facebook friend. You go to my Facebook, and you can see. I think it might be on the Facebook how I made this guy. The bust was like from the shoulders.
Yeah.
I took styrofoam, and I laminated some pieces of styrofoam together, attached them to the bust, and carved it down to look like a torso. And I made the arms and legs out of 2 plies of latex with picture wire, hanging wire in between them, so I could bend them and keep them in shape. And I made the suit from. I went to a Michael's craft shop, and I bought this flannel sort of stuff. So I made the suit for him. And I sewed it all up, and I put his logo. I had little logos. I put them on. I even took some hair, my own hair. I don't know if you could see this. but he
So
has
it's
hair on this
authentic.
thing.
That's great.
Yeah, he has hair. So it's crazy to get a pilot like this commercially to buy. It was $175. This pilot, the glue cost me $3 and change. It was $4.32 because I had the bust, the little upper part of the bust that from an
And the
old
rest
airplane.
was your own ingenuity and
Yeah,
artistry. Yeah.
yeah, $4.32. And this is another very interesting plane. I have the cowl. Let's see if you can. It's hard for me to see if you can see it.
Oh, yeah. That's great with the two pilots. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and look at that. Look at that. Look at. Can you see the landing gear?
Yes.
Very interesting. It's a very interesting plane. This plane is called a PT-22 Recruit, which was a training plane for the Air Force before World War II broke out. And it's a very classic airplane. And I love these classic planes. And I'll show you something else.
Well, they're works of art, you know?
Yeah, yeah, they are really nice. I've gotten I won a lot of awards with some of my stuff.
You've exhibited them?
Here,
Yeah.
I have a bunch more here.
You got kids
This
on the block who've seen these? They'd go
yeah,
crazy.
this is a very big airplane. These are all nice big airplanes.
How long are they about?
This one is about well over 6 feet. The fuselage is 6 feet. This plane has a 10-foot. The one next to it says Valiant on it.
Yeah.
That one has a 10-foot wingspan. And then there's the wings for that Army plane that I showed you on a little rack I made for it. And then the other airplane is a Beaver, which is like a Alaskan bush plane.
Yeah.
That has a 10-foot wingspan. And then the one that's by the wall that's missing a cowl and a motor. I guess you can see that.
Yeah.
That airplane won first place in the national contest in its class. That's a beautiful airplane. Let's see. I'm going to take you now into my workshop where I'm in the process of making another airplane. Now this is the cowl to that Army plane I showed you
Yeah.
with the dummy motors on it. And this is the cowl for that Piper Cub. And these are the wings for the Cub that's on this rack. And there's one over here, the undersurface of it. And this is over 10 feet. And this is an airplane that I'm building now. The picture of it. Can you see that, the pits?
Yeah. Yeah.
And here it is up on the bench.
What's the name of that plane? What is it?
It's a Pitts S2B.
Who
And here's,
manufactured that?
yeah, it's called Hangar 9.
Okay.
And here's one of the inside of it. I got some scammer trying to get me. And here's I have a keyboard under here.
I lost your video, Bob.
Oh, you did? Let's see. Let me see if I
You
can
got
find it.
too far away or something.
Let's
You know what?
see.
I actually, I'm glad we're Facebook friends. You have some gorgeous photos of many of these planes, and I will look at them. They're great.
No, I think I got you back again.
Yeah, there you are. There you are.
Yeah. So this is a keyboard, like a regular, professional keyboard, and this is one of my pictures at Watkins Glen Racetrack.
Oh, where you can control the flight of the plane?
No, this is where I was racing a car.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
And here's this picture of my helmet. You can see that. And atop there has some of the trophies that I have.
I think I saw that photo of your daughter in one of your race cars with you.
Yeah, that was one of the Ferraris. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this is a picture of me running with number 200 on it. This was a practice. This was 1983.
In the New
Before
York
I ran,
Marathon.
no, this was a local 5 mile race. I was running with a good friend of mine. This was near the end of the race. This picture that you see on the wall here, I'm wearing the Nike.
Yeah.
That was the end of it. That was my last marathon, 1984. This is about a tenth of a mile from the finish.
Was that in Central Park?
Yeah, that's in Central Park. Yeah.
Yeah.
And over here are my 4 plaques that I got.
Wow.
And this one is the last one. Can you see that one?
Yeah, I can.
Yes, at 3:36:45. That was my finish time. I finished
Amazing.
like 2,600 and something out of 18,000. But that was the last one that I did. Oh, on this wall here, I have more airplanes here. On the bottom is another Pitts. This is a Pitts S1, which is a little different than the one that's smaller than the one I'm making now. This one is 25% scale. This one is 33 1/3% scale. So it's bigger. And on this wall, this is not this is a model car that I made, and I'm standing. I sort of photoshopped it to look like it's like it's a real car, but
Yeah.
it is an authentic sprint car, and I had it in this show. It won first place. This was my race car taken at Pocono. It says Triple Z Racing on it.
Yeah.
And this is one of the earlier years, one of my other cars. And this is me with my 2 sons. And this was taken at Pocono also when I changed this car to a a regular race car. I was going at speeds where I needed all the safety stuff. I have a couple of, I'll show you one picture. This is my wife
Beautiful.
when we were married. And this is
The woman who kept you on the straight and narrow.
yes, that's the one.
Who locked you in your room to do your homework.
You got it. You got it. That's right. I would have had a different life if it wasn't for her. And there's one more airplane you got to see.
Okay.
This is the one of the biggest one I have in the house. It's under construction still, and we have a 9-foot ceiling in this room. Can you see it? The ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just pan it down slowly.
And what's that? What will that be when it's finished?
It's called an extra. There's a German guy name is von Extra, something von Extra. And it's a very aerobatic airplane. And this is the engine on it. This is a 150cc engine that could run a motorcycle. And the part that I'm going to show you now, can you see that?
Yeah.
It has 1, 2, 3 servos, very heavy duty servos with these heavy duty cables that just run the rudder. Because the rudder is very big. You can see the rudder up here.
Oh, yeah, it's huge.
It is huge. And the wings are huge. It's about, the top of it is sitting in this corner here. I don't want to get it out. It's just laid in there. It's almost finished. It just needs some boring kind of work that I'm just not into doing any boring work right now.
You need an assistant. You need an apprentice.
Well, my son.
You need an apprentice.
Yeah, my oldest son does this with me. He likes helping me, but he's been so busy lately. that he really hasn't had the time to do
Oh,
it
I see.
with me. But and the flying season is basically over now for the East Coast, at least for New York. The weather's been cold and windy, so that's why I brought my airplane. These are some of them are usually in the garage, so I don't have to keep dragging them up and down because they're not really light. Some of them are heavy.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. What
Yeah,
a what a great avocation. Yeah.
yeah. It's a lot of fun, and I like music too. Um,
Yeah, I
in
saw
fact,
you play the blues harmonica.
yeah, I play blues and I play the harmonica and keyboard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I played with this band called Red, White, and Blues for a number of years, and I gave up playing with them in 2001. I played with them for a few years before that. Um, I gave it up because my airplane club, which had lost its field, got another field, and I didn't have the time to build planes and practice. And I wanted to do my airplane, so I got them a new harmonica player who was actually better than me, but he didn't play the keyboard. So they were kind of pissed off at me because he didn't play the keyboard. In fact, I didn't even want to play the keyboard with them. I just wanted to play the harmonica because I had a very big amp. You know, the guitar player used to go to jams before.
Yeah, yeah.
I taught myself how to play the harmonica. I love blues. First, let me preface this story for you before I go into that. When Jerry was 14 and 15, he took piano lessons. And I took piano lessons when I was 12. And my older sister, who was 12 years older than me, was a fabulous piano player. I mean, she played classics. She was very, very good at it. And to me, it was just a lot of noise and banging, but I had no appreciation for it. But my mother bought me this piano. In fact, my parents did. And here it is over here.
Oh, wow.
It's a Knabe upright. It used to be in sort of a mahogany, darker mahogany color, but years and years ago, we refinished it to this lighter color. And so my mother made me go for lessons when I was 12 years old, and I was living at that time on Bedford Avenue, just when I moved to Bedford Avenue I. So I had to take a, a bus, or I know I had to go to Ocean. I had to go to Ocean Avenue and take a trolley, and then I had to take a Kings Highway bus. And I had to go somewhere in Kings Highway all the way down to get to her house. And she'd give me a half-hour lesson, and she was giving me like these little excerpts or snippets from operettas and operas. It's the last thing in the world I wanted to play. So I took lessons to appease my mother for 6 months. And I said, I don't want to play this. I don't like playing the piano. Please don't waste your money because I don't want to practice. So I stopped. She let me stop. Meanwhile, when Jerry was 14 and 15, he started taking lessons in popular music of the day. And we go to parties together, and he would sit down at the piano and play these songs. All the girls would come around and hover around and sing. And he was very, very popular. So I went back to my mother. I said, Mom, I want to take piano lessons again. So I made her so happy. So, so I got a teacher and said, oh, look, I want to learn how to play popular music. Yeah, no classics, no operas, not classic. I want to play music of today. I said, okay. So I took lessons for a year from the guy, and he taught me some theory and taught me all the chords and taught me how to play the songs. And I had like a bit of a flair for it. I guess some of my sister rubbed off on me too. And my father was a musician. He was a bugler for his company during World War I when he fought in two armies, Russian Army and American Army. So he was the company bugler. I think I told you about Irving Berlin. I think I might have
Yeah,
mentioned that
yeah.
to you. Yeah. So there was some musical talent in the family. So I picked it up pretty much, not too hard. And I got sort of my own little group of people like to listen to me, and I got interested in playing boogie woogie. So I bought these records, these vinyls, of all the black guys from Chicago who were the masters of boogie woogie. I didn't even know there was music for Boogie Woogie. And I just tried to listen. I started figuring it out and playing some bass figures. Then I started working on listening what the right hand riffs were. And I sort of got the idea of what they should sound like. So I started working on those things. Before I knew it, I could start playing some Boogie Woogie. And I played that for years. And I got pretty good at it, actually. And then I'd say about maybe 20 years ago, when I first started fooling around with the harmonica, I got interested in blues. So I wanted to learn how to play blues harmonica, and I wanted to learn how to play blues on the piano, which is basically different from the Boogie Woogie in a lot of respects. In some ways it's similar, but in a lot of respects it's different. So I taught myself how to play the blues. I got some CDs, some instructional stuff, and I took it from there. And I got good enough to play with this band, and people actually paid to see us. So that was good. That's what I do now. I sit down, I play at the keyboard, I make stuff up, and they say, "Yo, come on, play that again." And I thought, well, this sounds a little different. That's right, it is a little different because I never play the same thing twice.
You're,
I have
you're improvising.
exactly. I have a gift for that.
Yeah.
In fact, I never knew I was that musically inclined. Because at PS 99, they made me a listener. I couldn't sing. I can understand why to this day. And
But
then
you still had musical talent, which was
I
yearning.
think it was more.
Yeah.
It was more of a latent talent than anything else. And when I went in Lehigh in my junior year, I wanted to get an A in a course to help bolster my GPA for medical school. So there's a course offered called Basic Musicianship and Melodic Dictation. Because how hard could that be? I know all the notes, I know chords, I know this, I know that. So the basic musicianship was easy. All you had to do is take a melody line, make up a melody line, maybe 8 bars or 10 bars or 16 bars, whatever the teacher wanted, measures, and just add 3 or 4 part harmony to it. So if you know some music theory, you could add the harmony. You could harmonize your melody notes, which was fine. And the second part of the course was called melodic dictation, where you'd sit at your desk and the teacher would be at the piano, and with one finger, he'd pluck around notes and say, you had to write down what note he's playing. I couldn't do that to save myself. So I was going to get a C. So he said to me, why are you taking this course? I said, I'm taking this course. I like music. And I know I'm doing well in the melodic dictation. I'm doing well in the basic musicianship. Yeah, you are. You're doing very well. But you're not doing very well in the other thing. You're going to get a C in this course. I said, please give me a withdrawal. I'm going to practice that. I'm going to learn how to do it over the summer, and I'll take the course again. So he agreed to do that. I withdrew from the course, no problem, no penalties. And I came back, and I ended up getting a B, which was, I wasn't actually happy with it, but because he gave me a C in melodic dictation, and I got an A in the music theory part. So it was a B. But that's a story into itself. But since then, I don't know, I just developed my ear. I think playing the harmonica really improved my ear.
Good. I've been playing the trombone,
Mm-hmm.
playing some blues too. It's really been a pleasure. I've been taking lessons online with a trombone teacher in New York.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, all right, my friend, this has been great.
Okay. Yeah, I really enjoyed this.
Let's stay in touch. And
Yeah.
I got a friend who's going to help me just edit it, and I'll send it to you.
Okay, that'd be terrific.
All right.
I'll send it to my friend Jerry. You should get in touch with him too and do the same thing. He'll tell you a lot of stories.
Yeah. Send me his. Well, I could send him a message on Facebook, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll set something up.
Yeah. Tell
Say,
me.
hi, Jerry. Bob sent me. Bob who? Bob from East 10th Street. Oh, that guy. That bully. I never forgave him
Actually,
for punching me.
you can get the both of us on at the same time.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. All right.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Thanks.
You too. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Mike. Bye.